All right, move right to item number 10, conduct of business. First item is A, receive a report on the community-based transportation plan and provide feedback to the San Mateo City County Association of Governments, CCAG.
Good evening. I'm sorry. I need to sit over there?
No, you're good. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. As you know, I'm Laura Russell. I'm a planner in the Community Development Department. It is my pleasure tonight to introduce Corinne Goodrich. She's with Samtrans. She'll be introducing you to the background and the process for the community-based transportation plan.
Thank you. Is the PowerPoint going to come up?
Oh, take off the lid.
Fabulous. Okay, thanks. I'm Corinne Goodrich. I work with Samtrans as the manager of strategic development. Samtrans has been essentially the consultant to CCAG to conduct community-based transportation plans in San Mateo County. The plans are a requirement of the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. Beginning in 2001, they looked at a lifeline transportation network in the Bay Area. What they decided was that the most important thing was to focus on communities with low-income populations and/or high concentrations of minorities. And so in San Mateo County, this is the fourth and last plan that will be done. Plans have been completed in East Palo Alto, the north central city of San Mateo neighborhood, the Bayshore area of Daly City, and now this is San Bruno and South San Francisco. And the goal of these is really to consult with the community to understand what mobility needs are and also what people see as the best solutions that would help them in terms of transportation and mobility in their communities. The requirement for these is tonight, as Laura said, that you accept this report. But for Samtrans, the requirement is that the transit agency consider these recommendations as we develop our short-range transportation plans. On behalf of CCAG, CCAG has certain funding sources, primarily lifeline transportation funding, and these projects give the basis to get funding from that source. This is a picture of the study area. Interestingly, MTC included the Oyster Point area, but it is about 27,000 people and 5 square miles. We, at the request of city staff, we extended the study area to include more of San Bruno. As I said, the basis of this is community outreach. And we've done 4 of these plans, and what we found is that we need to kind of figure out all the ways we possibly can to reach community members. We mailed a survey to all households, both in Spanish and in English. We provided an incentive for people to complete the survey. We got 393 surveys back, which may not seem like a lot, but it's actually, for these type surveys, a pretty good sample. What we found was that relative to the survey findings, we asked people about difficult trips that they make. And we found that this is a really good way to get right to the core of what people need. And for this population, it was work trips to San Francisco, medical trips to San Francisco, and medical trips to San Mateo were the most difficult needs. We also held 2 transportation workshops, and I think a great part about this was that CCAG also got an environmental justice grant from Caltrans, and that allowed funding to make these extensive, complete workshops. We provided people with stipends to attend. They lasted between 2 and 3 hours. And the idea was to talk to people about the transportation that was available, what they saw their needs, and then talk with them about solutions. I'm trying to think if any of the city council people here attended, but they were very well received and we got a lot of great information. I think most of the people that attended the workshop said that they came because they wanted to learn about transportation, and most of them said in the survey that we gave them that they would be pleased to attend future workshops. This is a kind of a highlight of the needs, and Laura's going to talk to you about the strategies that were developed based on these needs. And I have to say that across the plans that we have done, this is no big surprise. These are predominantly the themes that we hear from low-income people in San Mateo County. First of all, that they really want a more bicycle, walkable, friendly, safe environment. You really see that people are piecing together their transportation. So, you know, they're walking, they're taking the bus, they're using their bike when they can, they're carpooling when they can, but that this was really something that came up throughout the county and in particular in this area. The cost of transit. Predominantly, people find that BART and Caltrain fares are too high for them to consider for work trips, and hence you see the need about work trips to downtown San Francisco. The good news on this is that the Metropolitan Transportation Commission is looking at a region-wide low-income pass. To put it in perspective, if you look at Samtrans passengers, our passengers are predominantly low income. We have 18% fare box recovery ratio, which means we are subsidizing every trip 82%. So if we did a low-income pass on Samtrans, we would be in a worse financial situation than we are now. People want to see improvements in transit service, and Laura's going to talk about the particular routes and service that they would like to see. But it's not just bus service. I think it extends to other types of options that people feel that they would like to see. We heard, and frankly, I was surprised that people found that safety and access at transit stations, at the BART stations, was an issue for people. And finally, and this is something we see again and again, is that people don't understand how to access information to use transit, how to use the transit systems, and you know, that comes up again and again. The transportation strategies, when you think about this planning effort, it's the genesis of ideas that hopefully will become projects that get funded, and we've seen this in other plans that have been completed. But what we did for each strategy is we look at what kind of needs are we trying to address, what is the project in general conceptually that we're looking at, and then so that they can be brought forward to look at the constraints, to look at the implementation requirements, to look at potential funding, and finally to designate agencies that should typically be the lead agencies. And I have to say that our experience in this is that if they were easy problems, they probably would have been solved, and that many of these require partnerships between different agencies in order to have a project that would address the need. We developed evaluation criteria, and they are the same across all the plans, and they were approved by our stakeholder committee as well as the TAC for the project. But the idea was that we'd look at each of these transportation strategies, because it was, you know, if people brought it up, even though as transportation planners we might say, not going to happen, right? everything was considered. And so this was kind of our test of whether or not they were likely to happen based on financial feasibility, based on implementation requirements, based on what the benefits are. Do they benefit a few people? Do they benefit more people in the community? And finally, the overall community benefits. So you'll see in your plan that you have this high, medium, and low ranking. It is qualitative, but it's the best information from your city staff, from the different people that were involved in the planning process. I'm going to turn it over to Laura to talk about the strategies. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. With that background, I would like to talk about the 9 strategies that are in the plan, and also point out that as drafted, the plan identifies the city as a potential lead agency on strategies 3 and 5. The city could also take a leadership role on other strategies depending on the City Council's priorities. So strategy 1 seeks to improve transit stop amenities and security. Examples may include things like more bus shelters, benches, or semi-seats, which are those small kind of seats that are attached a lot of times to the poles at the bus stops that can be very affordable and useful. It could also include more schedule information at stops. The community identified the corner of San Bruno Avenue and El Camino Real as a location for improvements, as well as identifying the entire stretch of El Camino Real for potential improvements. Strategy number 2 would like to improve affordability for public transit for low-income users. And the objective of this is really what Corinne was mentioning. There's a core group of low-income folks that really have trouble affording transit. The Human Services Agency currently has a program that could be expanded, especially to Samtrans service. And as Corinne mentioned in the big picture, there's also some reason to be optimistic about a region-wide reduced fare program. Strategy number 3 would improve bicycle amenities. And as noted, the City of San Bruno is currently listed as a potential lead agency for this strategy. It includes several parts. The first would be to expand the bicycle network. That would be more bike lanes or bike routes. This would be consistent with the general plan and also consistent with the San Mateo County-wide bicycle and pedestrian plan. The second thing would be increasing bicycle parking near transit. So that could be bicycle racks or storage lockers. We've already heard that there could be good news on this front. Number 3 would be development of the San Bruno pedestrian and bicycle master plan. So this is something that's been under consideration in the past and is mentioned in this planning effort. And the last thing is really under Samtrans authority, but is worth mentioning, and that is to increase storage for bikes on buses. So as you know, the buses have the rack on the front that holds 2 bikes, and we understand that it is possible to have a rack that would hold 3 bikes, dramatically increasing the capacity. Strategy number 4 is to provide free or low-cost bicycles, and this is not something that was immediately apparent to staff as a need because we perceive bicycles as being relatively affordable, but we did hear from the community that they could still use assistance in this area. The lead agency for this would probably be a community-based organization, and there's a model that basically works that bicycles are donated to a community-based group, repaired, and then redistributed to low-income communities. Our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee has indicated that they would be interested in working as a partner on this program. It may also include an educational component, such as bike safety workshops. Strategy 5 would improve pedestrian safety and access. Again, the city is a potential lead agency for this strategy. Improvements could include pedestrian countdown signals, improvements at crossings, sidewalk repair, things like that. The specific projects would still have to be fully analyzed, and any traffic calming projects would have to go through the city's process as outlined in the traffic calming toolkit. But it is worthwhile to note that during the community outreach process, pedestrian improvements ranked high on the priority list. Strategy 6 would increase public access to information about transportation. So the idea is to create or expand educational programs that can include things like how to ride transit, use 511 either online or on the phone for those people that aren't as good with their internet access. Those resources should be in English and Spanish, and likely in Chinese as well. There are 2 recent programs in our area that have done this successfully. Those could be used as models. This could also include working with other community groups to distribute information at the places that people are more likely to already go to. Strategy number 7 talks about Samtrans bus service. So I won't go into too much detail, but I would like to point out that the community gave very specific feedback about what routes could be improved, the types of things they needed more, what buses were busy on peak service. So those details are included in the plan. And as mentioned, those things are going to be included in the Samtrans service planning process as well. Strategy number 8 is similar to number 7, but really speaks to connectivity. So the community pointed out to us some specific locations where they were missing their connections. So like number 7, the information is being sent on from the plan to the Samtrans planning process. Strategy number 9 is related to the South San Francisco Caltrain station. And though it's not directly related to us, it certainly would improve mobility for residents that go back and forth between places and through the region. So to review where we are at this point, it is a joint plan and requires review by several agencies. South San Francisco has accepted the plan, and they've asked for additional translation into Chinese for any outreach materials that come out of the plan. CCAG has also accepted the plan contingent on incorporating the comments from the City Council. And then looking forward, other community-based transportation plans have resulted in significant grant funding for local projects and programs. So completion of this plan should improve our chances of receiving funding in the future. And it's useful to have the plan and to know the City Council's priorities. That way, when the grant applications come to us, we have the projects ready to go and already know what your priorities are. So in closing, staff is looking for council feedback on the plan for incorporation into the final version. Samtrans staff is available for questions. I'm available for questions. We also have a member of the CCAG staff here tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, Corinne, I noticed on the PowerPoint they mentioned specifically El Camino Real and San Bruno Avenue and Genevan and El Camino Real. What concentration or interest have you put on the area surrounding our new grade separation?
That's a good question. It didn't specifically come up because, I was going to say, because we're looking at what is here now, not especially what is going to be here in the future.
Okay.
But all of these improvements, I think, address, safety, walkability, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking in terms of, bicycle racks and all the different kinds of things that are going to be more heavily concentrated in an area with a whole lot more people going in and out. So we brought it up tonight.
Okay, we'll add that.
Anyone else? Here we go.
Just wanted to, just 2 quick questions, Corinne. How do you, if you could briefly say, how do you see this plan for South City San Bruno assisting us to acquire grants that will help make some of these improvements that have been outlined here?
It certainly has worked for other entities. East Palo Alto in particular has used the plan to get shuttle funding. I'm trying to think of the other. Jean is the one who is the guru of Lifeline funding, but the Bayshore plan resulted in a couple of grants. One for the 7 Mile House, improvements to that bus stop, another one to add a shuttle. So I think the importance of this is you're not going to get a grant unless the first thing you can do is document that there really is a need and that you've done an outreach process. So as I said, it's kind of the genesis of these projects because you are doing just that. You're documenting what the needs are.
And then finally, I just wanted to just to confirm too that the review of this and or acceptance of this document doesn't, shall we say, confirm San Bruno obligated in any financial situation going forward, or having to come back to say, well, you know, you folks were in favor of this, and so now here's something that we wanted to pursue, but there's a price tag involved.
No, it doesn't. It really is just providing the city and other agencies with a better reading of what the transportation needs are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Michael?
I was curious, you mentioned some other studies in different areas, and I was wondering how the priorities that came out of this study compare with the priorities in those areas. Or are they fairly similar across the county?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let me clarify. Staff, you're not asking us tonight to give you the priorities we have for this, or are you?
Yeah.
What we're looking, what we're looking for is your general feedback, on the priorities as they're outlined within the plan. So there's 9 total priorities with us taking the lead on several of them. Are those the priorities you'd like us to focus on? Are there any ones that you'd like to see us become more involved in as we move forward?
Okay. Go ahead. Oh,
if I might add, Mr. Mayor, to
City
a
Manager.
comment from the Community Development Director, it certainly is the City Council's option, and we would welcome comments at any point, particularly as we're doing more long-range planning and thought about capital improvements generally. So this is not your last opportunity to identify priorities, particularly as you might see them being implemented via the city itself.
Okay. The only other thing I would say is, you know, this is all well and good, but along with it, without clutter, I don't know how you'd do it, but we probably need some signage as we go along. So to tell people, you know, on a day-to-day basis, instead of trying to outreach to them with flyers or mailings or things, just something at certain street locations to let them know that repeatedly these things are going to be available, whether they're bike racks, whether they're, you know, whatever happens to be. So, and I would like a little more concentration on our grade set, because that's a huge thing coming up. Mr. Lubke, did you have a question?
Hi. Thank you for your briefing. I have a comment and a question. And my comment is, my name is Alan Lubke. I live on Fleetwood Drive. My comment is, here's a remarkable suggestion that can be executed immediately and solve and help alleviate transportation in the Bay Area with Samtrans. Why does it take 2 fares to get from the shopping center at, well, anyway, from where I live on Sneath Lane to get to El Camino Real, and then pay another fare to get on another Samtrans bus on El Camino Real? Why can't we have a transfer system, even if it would be a lesser cost? But why should you pay 2 fares to go, one to go 4 or 5 blocks to get to another point? So that's a comment, and I wish that the people who are here, the players, the notables, can take that to heart and put it in their minds and maybe execute it. Now, my question is, for the planner here, I don't know, it was 5, 6 years ago, we talked about this city's agreement or disagreement with ferry service up at Oyster Point. Now, when I get my free bicycle on the Samtrans bus, will I be, when I get on there, will I be able to ride my bike up to Oyster Point and get on a ferry to go to San Francisco? How's that coming?
So the first thing relative to transfers, Samtrans recently instituted a day pass. So you can purchase a day pass that would give you any number of rides that you want, which is equivalent to about the cost of 3 rides. And that's about where we're at right now. Relative to the ferry service, the ferry service that is going to happen is from, I may be wrong, but I think it's from Alameda to South San Francisco, not from South San Francisco up to San Francisco.
Yeah, okay. How's that coming though? Oyster Point?
My understanding is they are within, just talked to our Transportation Authority people, about 4 to 5 weeks of completing construction, but the Water Transit Authority would like to wait for better weather to actually start the service. So the construction is virtually complete, and so it's up to WETA now to determine when they're going to start the service.
Good. Thank you. So you need anything else from us, Aaron? Other than something we'll think about after the meeting's over, we'll think of 5 things. So.
No, nothing else. Just as the city manager said, this is a good place to start as you're looking at plans in the future, as you're evaluating those, to look back at this plan as well.
Great. Thank you very much. Good report. Thank you, Corinne.